Welcome to this 365 Freedom Strategy session. Today we're breaking down the mechanics of scale sale and why sales confidence is built on the truth of your impact, not the cleverness of your script.
And frankly, this specific topic is usually the elephant in the room when we're doing high-level consulting.
It really is.
It's that friction point that everyone feels, but nobody actually wants to put on a P&L sheet.
Right. And just to frame this for everyone listening, as partners here at 365 Freedom, we spend probably 80% of our time in the architectural weeds. Funnels, email sequences, CRM tagging, the hard tactical stuff.
Infrastructure.
Exactly. But we have both seen that pattern where you build a Ferrari of a system, you hand the keys to the business owner, and they just drive it into a wall at 10 miles an hour.
Or they refuse to even turn the key. They just stare at the dashboard, completely paralyzed.
And that paralysis is what we're dissecting today. We're looking at the specific psychological and really tactical barriers that prevent business owners from charging what they're worth, even when they have perfectly working products.
And I want to be clear right from the outset here. This is not a mindset pep talk.
Right. No affirmations today.
No. We are looking at the actual mechanics of how belief drives revenue. It's surgical.
It's an important distinction to make. We aren't talking about manifesting sales. We're talking about the actual friction that happens between knowing your offer is good, like intellectually, looking at the specs, and actually feeling the weight of that value when you're asking for the credit card?
Because that gap, that space between knowing and feeling, that is exactly where the profit dies.
It's incredibly expensive. The scale sale methodology frames this beautifully around a concept called the guilt tax. And I think we should start there because it's such a visceral label.
It really is. The guilt tax is a phenomenon we observe in, I'd say, probably 6 out of 10 founders we consult with, maybe more.
Easily more.
And it's particularly prevalent in service-based sectors, high-ticket SaaS, coaching, anywhere there's a close relationship with the client.
So let's define the scenario for the listener. What does paying the guilt tax actually look like in practice?
Well, here is the typical scenario. You have a founder. They are brilliant. They've built a solution that legitimately solves a problem. But when the moment comes to name the price, whether that's on a live sales call or even just hitting send on an email campaign, their internal state shifts.
They contract.
Exactly. They physically and emotionally contract. It starts to feel heavy.
It's that tightness in the chest. And the logic usually is that they feel this heaviness because they perceive themselves as taking money.
Right. They view the transaction as a subtraction from the client's bank account rather than an addition of value to the client's life or business. That fundamental misperception is the root of the guilt.
And the thing that keeps them stuck paying this tax is the belief that the guilt means something is wrong with the product.
Yes. They think, if I feel guilty asking for $5,000, maybe the product isn't ready. Maybe it's not robust enough. Maybe I need to build just one more feature.
So they retreat. They go right back into development mode. They procrastinate on selling to fix a product that isn't actually broken.
Precisely. But the analysis shows us that this heaviness rarely stems from a lack of functional value. It stems from the founder being totally disconnected from the result. They have become neurologically disconnected from the impact they create.
Because they are hyper-focused on the friction of the transaction.
Right, the awkwardness of asking for the money. And they've completely lost sight of the transformation that the money is buying.
That brings us to the core friction point we are analyzing today, the knowing versus feeling gap. Our strategy briefs put it really bluntly. Knowing your offer is helpful and feeling it are different things.
Fundamentally different things.
Let's break that down. Because to a logical engineer type listening right now, knowing and feeling might sound like synonyms.
I get that, but they are entirely different neurological states. Knowing is cognitive. It's prefrontal cortex stuff. It's essentially math.
Right.
You say to yourself, I have 10 modules, 5 hours of consulting time, a dedicated workbook. The market rate is X, therefore my value is Y.
It's logical.
It's perfectly logical. And you can know all of that. You can have this spreadsheet to prove it and still feel like an absolute fraud when you get on a Zoom call.
Because that's just a list of features. That is a spec sheet.
Exactly. Feeling it, on the other hand, is somatic. It resides in the body. It's the difference between reading a menu and actually eating the meal.
That's a great way to put it.
When you feel the value, you have a visceral memory of the relief you bring to a client. And effective sales, meaning high integrity, sustainable sales, is essentially a transfer of that feeling.
So if you only have the logic, but you lack the somatic certainty,
then the transmission signal is weak. the buyer won't pick up on it.
Let's look at the symptoms of that. What does a weak signal look like in the wild? If I'm a founder listening to this, how do I diagnose myself? How do I know if I'm paying the guilt tax?
You will see it in your microbehaviors, and the most common one by far is the verbal qualify.
Oh, the backpedal.
Yes. You state the price, and then you immediately keep talking.
I have absolutely done this in the past. You say, well, it's $5,000, but that includes the onboarding, and we have a payment plan. And honestly, if that's a stretch, we can look at scoping it down.
And negotiating against yourself before the client has even taken a breath.
Exactly.
You are apologizing for the price because you don't feel the equity of the exchange. That is the very first sign.
What's the second sign?
The second sign is more subtle, but equally damaging. It's the over-reliance on hype, the clever words trap.
Right. Flooding the copy with adjectives.
Yes. Everything becomes revolutionary, game-changing, unbelievable. When a founder doesn't feel the core truth of the value, they subconsciously try to compensate. They try to build a bridge of hyperbole.
Trying to use big, loud words to bridge the gap of their own disbelief.
It's a bridge of words over a canyon of doubt.
And the buyer isn't stupid. They might not consciously know why they don't trust you, but they feel the instability of that bridge.
They feel that you are trying to sell them. True authority doesn't try. True authority just is.
So the economic consequence here isn't just that the founder feels bad. It's that they actively sabotage the sale. They trigger the buyer's skepticism simply by signaling their own insecurity.
It is total subconscious sabotage. You put the brakes on your own growth. And the real tragedy here is the feedback loop it creates.
How so?
Well, you usually interpret that lost sale as the market being bad or the price being too high. So what do? You lower the price, which makes you resentful and makes you feel even worse, and the cycle just spirals down.
That is the guilt tax in action. It taxes your revenue, your confidence, and eventually the actual viability of the business.
It is a massive leak in the bucket.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis. It's grim, but we have to face it. Let's pivot to the cure. The ScaleSale protocols outline a specific case study, a composite of several analyses we've run that illustrates exactly how to break this loop.
Right. Let's picture a business owner. We can call him Alex just to make the mechanics concrete. Alex runs a highly specialized consultancy. He has clients, he gets results. But every single time he has to send a proposal, he freezes. He stares at the screen. He literally feels like he's robbing people, even though they're actively asking for his help.
Which is completely illogical, but like we said, feelings often are. The logic of offering a service is being overridden by the emotion of taking resources.
Exactly. Now, Alex didn't go hire a sales coach to fix this. He didn't rewrite his script, and he didn't go learn some dark psychology NLP tricks.
He did an audit.
He did an audit.
And usually when we say audit at 365 Freedom, we mean looking at conversion rates or email open rates, click-throughs. But this was an entirely different kind of audit.
This was an impact audit. Alex sat down, and this physical action is key. He blocked off time for a dedicated session, and he reviewed every single piece of positive feedback he had received in the past 2 years.
Every email, every DM.
Every Slack message, every quick comment on a video call, all of it.
I want to pause on the why of this specific action. Because normally, most of us get a compliment, we get a quick dopamine hit, we think, oh, that's nice, and then we immediately archive it and get back to stressing about our problems.
Right. We don't metabolize the win.
That is the perfect word for it. We don't metabolize it. It touches the surface, but it never enters the bloodstream.
Exactly. So Alex forced himself to not just read these messages, but to actively look for evidence. He treated it like a forensic investigation, but for value. He was looking for proof that real work was getting done.
And when you aggregate that data, when you put 50 testimonials or thank you notes in one single document, what happens?
Pattern recognition kicks in. One testimonial is a nice story. 50 testimonials is a robust data set. Alex started to see that his clients weren't just happy, they were grateful.
And grateful implies that a real problem was solved. There's a massive distinction between, hey, I enjoyed this, and thank you for saving me.
Precisely. Happy means you were pleasant to work with. Grateful means you removed actual pain. He saw patterns of life change.
What kind of patterns?
People saying things like, I can finally sleep through the night, or my team stopped fighting, or we finally launched the product that was stuck in development for a year.
Concrete outcomes.
Yes. And when he saw it all laid out, the realization finally hit him. The offer was already doing the work. The value wasn't some future projection he had to invent or promise. It was a historical fact.
He had simply developed amnesia about his own efficacy.
We all do it. We are biologically wired to focus on threats and problems. We completely gloss over the things that are working. This audit cured his amnesia.
It moved the value from his head, the math of knowing he's good, to his gut, the somatic feeling of having proof that he changes lives.
Exactly. And once that physiological shift happens, the guilt just evaporates.
Because you can't feel guilty about curing a headache if you have a folder full of people thanking you for the cure.
It completely changes the internal dynamic from taking money to withholding a solution.
Explain that shift.
Well, if I know with absolute certainty that I can help you, and I don't offer it to you because I'm scared of having an awkward price conversation, I am actually doing you a massive disservice.
Yeah. Yes.
I am letting you stay in pain simply because I am uncomfortable. That is fundamentally selfish.
That is a radical reframe for a lot of people. Hesitation is selfishness. Selling is service.
Selling is service. When it's grounded in the truth of your impact, yes, absolutely.
So let's operationalize this for the listener. We don't want you just nodding along in your car or at the gym. We want you to actually execute this. The strategy refers to this as impact anchoring. What is the actual mechanical exercise?
It is the systematic application of exactly what Alex did. You need to build a wall of love or an impact dossier. And remember, it's not for your prospects to see, it's strictly for you to see.
So step one is aggregate the evidence.
Yes. Scrape your inbox, your texts, your DMs, put them all in one central document. But here is the specific mechanical step that actually makes the belief stick. You need to write down 3 real, concrete outcomes your offer has created for people.
And this is exactly where founders trip up, isn't it?
Always.
They try to go too big. They think an outcome has to be, I made my client $1 million in 30 days.
The big claim trap. We are all so conditioned by bad marketing to think that only the massive tectonic shifts count as value. But impact anchoring relies entirely on the nuance of small wins.
Give us some examples of small wins that actually carry high economic value.
A shift in clarity. That is a huge one.
It really is.
If a client was walking around in a fog of confusion, which is stressful, it's exhausting, it's paralyzing, and after one single call with you, they know exactly what to do next, you have sold them clarity. Clarity has immense value.
It saves time, it prevents costly mistakes, it drastically reduces cortisol.
Exactly. Or another one, a sense of relief.
Yeah.
How many business owners are grinding their teeth at night worrying about compliance or tax liabilities or a tech stack that just won't integrate?
Too many.
Right. And if your offer fixes that specific problem, you are selling sleep. You are selling a lower heart rate. Those are highly tangible outcomes.
And importantly, these smaller claims are infinitely easier for the founder to actually believe.
That's the entire point. Your brain might reject the idea that you are some industry guru who saves the world. It will flag that as a lie.
Right, the imposter syndrome kicks in.
Exactly. But your brain cannot reject the evidence that you helped Sarah fix her email integration last Tuesday. It is an undeniable historical truth.
So you anchor your belief in the small, undeniable truths rather than the big, shaky marketing promises.
Correct. And because it is undeniable, your confidence becomes unshakable. Listen, confidence is just a calculation of probability.
Break that down.
If your brain has evidence that you succeed, it naturally predicts future success and you feel confident. If you lack that evidence, your brain predicts failure and you feel anxiety. The impact audit provides the raw data to change that calculation.
Proof builds confidence.
Yeah.
It's not magic. It's literally just data processing.
It is infinitely more effective than standing in the bathroom mirror doing affirmations.
Saying, I am wealthy, I am a closer.
Right. Your subconscious knows you're lying. But looking at a screenshot from a client that literally says, you saved my business, that is reality. You can safely anchor into that.
Okay, so we've done the audit. We've anchored in the truth of these small wins. Now let's take this newly minted belief into the actual sales meeting. How does this internal shift change the external dynamic between the host and the buyer?
The strategy outlines this as moving from a state of proving to a state of inviting.
I love that framing. Talk about the proving state first.
This is the transformation. The proving energy is what we discussed earlier. It's the guilt tax energy. It's highly defensive, high friction. Exactly. Please believe me. Look at my features. Look at my fancy credentials. You are constantly trying to justify your own existence on the call.
It feels like you're tugging on their sleeve. It's needy.
And nobody likes that feeling. Buyers repel from it. But the inviting energy that is low friction, it stems from that exact steadiness we just built with the audit.
What does that sound like in practice?
It essentially says, we have a solution here. We know for a fact it works. We see that you have the specific problem this solves. We invite you to solve it with us.
It completely detaches the seller from the outcome of that specific call.
Yes, because if the prospect says no, it doesn't shatter your belief in your product. You still have the folder of 50 people who said yes and got incredible results.
So the no isn't a judgment on your worth.
No, it's just a not right now or a bad fit for that individual. It doesn't shake your foundation.
I want to talk about the physiology of this inviting state. The session notes mention that the tone softens. Now, that seems a bit counterintuitive to the whole Wolf of Wall Street, high-energy sales archetype we see everywhere.
The wolf architect is actually quite fragile. It relies entirely on overwhelming the prospect with pace and volume.
Right.
But true authority, think of a veteran surgeon or a commercial pilot during turbulence, is calm. When you are genuinely grounded in belief, your vocal cords literally relax. The pitch of your voice drops. You naturally speak slower.
You aren't rushing to fill every single silence on the call.
You aren't rushing because you aren't running away from anything. You are standing firm on your evidence. The strategy specifically says the tone softens toward the person, but it strengthens on the standard.
Soft on the person, hard on the standard. That is brilliant.
It means you are highly empathetic and kind. You say, I completely understand this is a big investment for you. That's soft on the person.
Right.
But you remain totally rigid on the value. You say, and I also know that this solution is the only way to get the result you want, so the price is the price. Hard on the standard.
That combination is magnetic. Because in a world of chaotic, desperate marketing, steadiness is a massive superpower.
It creates safety. Above all else, buyers are terrified of making a mistake. They are actively looking for safety. A frantic, high-hype seller feels inherently unsafe. A steady, calm, truth-anchored seller feels like a safe pair of hands.
Which leads us directly into the mirror effect.
Yes. The mirror effect is the core psychological mechanism at play during the transaction. Humans are deeply social, empathetic creatures. We constantly mirror the emotional states of the people we are interacting with.
Subconsciously.
Entirely subconsciously. If I am anxious and jittery on a call, you will start to feel a low-level hum of anxiety yourself. You won't know why, but you'll feel it.
But if you are calm and certain,
then you will borrow that certainty.
So the buyer is essentially outsourcing their confidence to you, the seller.
Exactly. Think about it from their perspective. They don't know if the product works yet. They haven't used it. They haven't experienced the transformation. So they look directly at you. They think, does this person actually believe it works?
And if they detect even a slight tremor of doubt in your voice when you state the price, they interpret that doubt as risk.
Yes. If the chef won't enthusiastically eat his own cooking, I'm certainly not going to pay top dollar for it.
Makes perfect sense.
But if you are absolutely solid, again, not arrogant, but solidly anchored in reality, they borrow that belief. They use your certainty to bridge their own gap of doubt. This is exactly why we say sales confidence is built on belief, not on scripts.
You can say the perfect script word for word.
But if the music underneath those words is fear, the buyer hears the fear.
The melody carries way more information than the lyrics.
As always.
I want to pivot slightly to application here, specifically for social media and top-of-funnel marketing. We have a lot of listeners trying to crack short-form video. TikTok, Reels, LinkedIn video. The ScaleSale notes mention a short-form video script logic that directly applies this impact anchoring.
This is a huge unlock, especially for founders who hate being on camera, because most founders think they need to be performers on video.
Right. They think they need to have insane energy, point at text bubbles appearing on screen, use trending audio.
Essentially act like a clown just to get a few seconds of attention. They think they need more hype.
But the logic we're discussing dictates the exact opposite. Most people think they need more hype. They actually need connection to real outcomes.
Exactly. So how do you actually prep for a video using this method? It's simple. Before you hit record, you do a mini audit, you take 30 seconds, you close your eyes and visualize a specific client you helped last week.
You remember their face when they got the result.
You ground yourself in the truth of that specific interaction, and then, only then, do you hit record.
And instead of trying to be viral, you just speak the truth of that interaction to the camera.
You say something like, if selling feels hard for you, you may be forgetting the impact you actually create. That is a hook grounded in empathy, not fake hype.
And when you speak from that anchored place, the video naturally cuts through the noise. It signals signal rather than just adding to the noise.
It stops the scroll because it feels real. We are so utterly inundated with fake, high-gloss, AI-generated content right now that reality has become a premium asset.
Authenticity is the ultimate arbitrage right now. But the catch is, you can't fake authenticity.
No, you actually have to be authentic. And to be authentic, you have to be intimately connected to your own truth. That is exactly why the audit is a non-negotiable step.
It's fascinating how this flows upstream. The audit fixes the internal belief. The belief fixes the tone. The tone fixes the trust with the buyer. And the trust fixes the sale.
It is a perfectly linear chain.
Right.
And if you skip the first link, if you try to skip the internal audit work and just buy a better script, the rest of the chain never forms. You're just pushing a rope.
I want to circle back to one technical detail regarding the audit process before we start to wrap up, because I feel like this is exactly where people will get lazy.
They always do.
They'll scroll through their phone for 5 minutes while they're drinking coffee and say, okay, I did the audit, I'm good.
That is not an audit. That is just browsing.
Uh.
The recommendation is to make it physical or, at the very least, visually aggregated in one dedicated space. You need to create a swipe file, a Google Doc, even a physical corkboard in your office.
Why does the physical aggregation matter so much? Why not just remember the wins?
Because, as we established, our memories are faulty and heavily biased toward the negative. You need an external brain that holds the truth for you when your internal brain fails.
Right.
When the inner critic wakes up at 3 a.m. and starts whispering, "You're a fraud, nobody actually likes your product, your pricing is too high." You need to be able to open a physical document that says, here are 50 distinct people who vehemently disagree with you.
The document wins the argument.
The data wins. You always let the data fight your emotional battles for you.
That's incredibly powerful. And for those listening who might be much earlier in their journey, maybe they are launching a new offer. They don't have 50 testimonials yet. Maybe they only have 3. Does this methodology still apply?
Absolutely. In fact, I would argue it's even more critical in the early days. If you only have 3 testimonials, you cherish those 3. You deep dive into them.
What specifically changed for those 3 people?
Exactly. The depth of your belief matters so much more than the sheer volume of the testimonials. If you truly, deeply believe you helped one single person get a result, you can sell to the second person with total, unshakable integrity.
Because the baseline is established. I helped Dave. Therefore, I can help you.
That is a complete sales pitch right there. I help Dave. I can help you.
It's powerful in its simplicity. We tend to overcomplicate sales with complex funnels and tripwires and elaborate psychological triggers, but at the end of the day, it really is just one human offering proven help to another human.
And the guilt tax is just the psychological noise that gets in the way of that help. So, repeal the tax. Look at the proof.
Your offer is stronger than you think. That's the line from the session that really stuck with me today.
Because it is true for 95% of the founders we meet. They are literally sitting on a mountain of value, but they spend all their time staring at the pebbles of their own imperfections.
So the homework for everyone listening is clear. You need to schedule the impact audit. Don't do it in between answering email.
Walk an hour.
Block the hour. Pour a coffee. Dig through your archives. Find those small wins. Anchor yourself in the clarity and the relief that you provide to your market.
And then go sell from that place. See how your energy changes. See how the buyer reacts when you finally stop trying to prove your worth and start inviting them into a solution.
It really is the foundation of everything else we teach here. You can layer the advanced tactics, the automations, the scaling strategies on top later, but this core belief engine has to be running first.
Correct. Fill the tank with belief. Then you can drive the car as fast as you want.
I think we've covered the landscape here beautifully. We've dissected the core problem, the psychological solution, and the practical application. It's been a fantastic session.
Always a pleasure to dig into the real structural drivers of growth.
If you're ready to stop the sales hesitation and start selling from a place of grounded belief, visit 365 Freedom online to join the community. This has been a 365 Freedom Strategy session.